Hi Zesties. Well, I am now officially homosexual, disabled, and homeless. Imagine that. Imagine that. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually homeless, but I do need to find a new place, which has me very depressed because I was almost a homeowner in 2019, but I messed it up. Dairy Queen is so good and their ranch is so freaking good. And all of this costs like $9. My only complaint is they give skimpy little chicken strips. The other location, when I first moved to St. Pete, gave way bigger chicken strips, and I would have got the hamburger had I known that this would be the size of the chicken strips. I'm disappointed with the size as always. I need bigger, okay? But anyway, chicken's good though, beautifully fried hard, crunchy, super soft on the inside. You know, Dairy Queen really does their thing. I had never been to Dairy Queen before moving to St. Pete. It seems that they have a lot of Dairy Queens here. Anyway, so and this is the Caramel Reese's Blizzard. So gluttonous and decadent, this meal, you know, to come with ice cream, chicken, french fries, and a Coke. But I was depressed, and this is the only way I know how to deal with it, is to eat. But like, you know, if you follow me for a while, you would know that I was living in Tampa, and then I like in an apartment, and everything was like pretty good there. Well, no, everything was great. Except then I had these psycho neighbors that were just screaming like 24/7, like all day, all night. They were screaming. So, you know, I got really tired of it and eventually was like, okay, you know, I have to leave because I can't deal with the whole screaming thing. And I felt a little unsafe as well because the neighbors were so crazy too that you know, I didn't feel like safe living where I was living anymore. So anyway, I one day found this nice, affordable studio in St. Pete, and I moved. Bam. Like, literally that same day I found the studio, I just said, okay, I'm moving. And I actually used to say that I didn't want to live in St. Pete. I like Tampa, and I didn't like this side or whatever. Until I ate those crabs, okay? Then I got converted to a St. Petian the second I ate those crabs. The second I ate crispy crab, okay, I became a St. Petian. But anyway, so you know, I was living in my studio, and to be honest, I was happy in my studio, and I really regret now having left my studio. You know, but like, my friend, I don't want to get into like the whole story because, to be honest, it's really long and complex. But like, I went to move in with my friends in this big like beach mansion where I'm living right now. You can't blame me for wanting to live there because it's really nice. I mean, I'd like to stay there, but you know, unfortunately, I don't really feel secure there anymore. So anyway, I'm not going to get into details because it's all too complicated. And it's all involving like personal details of my friends who follow me, but long story short, the living situation did not really work out. And I'm just feeling so down and depressed. Because, you know, I've been dealing with this whole housing instability thing as long as I have memory. You know, even as a child, as an adult, as a teenager, every single day of my life, there was always, I've never had a permanent home or what, there's always a need to move someday. And this really made me want to own a home and become a homeowner and have a permanent place. I almost was in 2019, but I messed it up. And now I've messed it up all over again because I became very depressed when I became disabled. And I've kind of lost it, you know, I've kind of lost the plot. But, you know, cooking makes me really happy, and I really enjoy doing this, so I just really hope that everything works out and I can stay in St. Pete, because I've been getting so much love out here on my videos. Thanks, you guys. We got our first 20,000 view video of my Dirty Diana review. You know, the St. Pete people are so supportive and kind and welcoming, and, you know, even like when I went to Dirty Diana's, there was a woman there. I feel like she's related to her, but I don't really know. like, she asked me when I moved to St. Pete. Or like where I was from originally or whatever. So I told her like I'm originally from California, but then I gave her my whole like Florida story, like moved to Fort Lauderdale in 2020. No wait, moved to Fort Lauderdale in 2017. Moved to Tampa in 2020. And moved to St. Pete. I'm still mad that those chicken strips were little. I would have got the hamburger. And I moved to St. Pete like a couple months ago. I've only been here like 3 months, and now I'm on to my 3rd place already, and just feeling like a idiot for giving up my cheap studio. I had like the cheapest studio in St. Pete. You know, and now I just feel like an idiot. But had a nice kitchen and everything too. Everything happens for a reason. I'll have my millions Estes, and soon I'll have my freaking downtown St. Pete penthouse and poppin' restaurant and everything. Actually, I don't know if I want to have a restaurant, but like, you know, Diana, shout out to Diana. Shout out to all my cooking girls. You guys are so great and supportive too. But she was saying I should start selling my food, and I was thinking, maybe. I've always been, you know, I love cooking, and I really would love to cook, you know, for a living. But anyway, so back to my story. So I told the lady, oh, you know, I'm originally from California, but I moved to Fort Lauderdale 2017, Tampa 2020, and St. Pete like a few months ago. And she said, oh, well, you're welcome. You're welcome here. Something like that. And I was like, you know, I felt like that spoke volumes about the attitude of St. Pete. I don't think she's unique. St. Pete people are very friendly, very welcoming, and very, you know, they're just kind of like embrace you with open arms type people. I'm not used to the attitude of the St. Pete people at all. I've never quite seen an attitude of the people like they are in St. Pete anywhere else in the U.S. Like, the people are just so friendly and whatever. But I felt like that spoke volumes, especially considering there's cost of living crisis. That I'm suffering greatly from. But a lot of people, the blizzard is so good. This is exactly what I needed for my depression. But a lot of people blame people specifically from California for like raising the prices and all that stuff. But for anyone watching, I'm suffering too. I messed up too and can't buy a rent or anything. You know, I'm totally screwed here too. But, you know, I felt like it spoke volumes about the St. Pete attitude, considering that even in, like, cost of living crisis, and a lot of people, like, blame Californians for it and stuff. Hold on. I can't believe I just called myself a Californian. I'm a freaking Floridian. I've been here since 2017. And I don't want anything to do with my home state. I'm Florida all the way. What am I saying? But anyway, the fact that she said that, oh, you're welcome here or whatever, you know, I just felt like it spoke volumes about the St. Pete people. And I would like to stay here, but it's like, man, the whole situation's crazy. Like, the situation is so crazy that I'm, like, talking to this girl that I don't even know about splitting an apartment together. And it's kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? What am I supposed to do? My last studio was 1050, and I don't know if 1050 studios are a thing. Like, that was a pretty good deal. You know what I mean? So, like, what am I to do? But I thought it was funny because the random girl that I don't even know, she was saying that she's a wannabe chef, and I was like, oh, I'm a wannabe chef too. That's interesting, you know? Maybe everything happens for a reason, even though I'm tired of saying that. And I feel like that's just something that people with hard lives say. To feel better about their situation. Whatever bad thing is happening to them, it's all for a reason and whatever. But I'm just trying to remain positive, you know. I'm trying to remain hopeful in hopeless times. But, like, you know, it's tough, you know. It's tough. I was very upset by all of this, you know. I'm just like, even with the whole cooking channel and food channel, it's like, okay, well, when you apply to an apartment, right, they like check your income. So I have to be working right now. I have to have a good paycheck to show them. So, you know, the whole housing instability just affects every aspect of my life. Not to mention, I'm likely to get a hip surgery this year to try to get myself de-disabled or back to being like able-bodied or whatever. Now I have to deal with that on top of finding a place to live. And, you know, just makes me depressed. But what if it's just life pushing me? What if I'm supposed to go deeper into my cooking endeavors, you know, and see where that takes me? But, you know, Dairy Queen sure made me feel better. Hey, you know what? I enjoyed living at the beach. I swam in the ocean every day. Now I'm going to be swimming every day no matter what, because I might be gone soon. But to be honest, I'd way rather live closer to downtown St. Pete than by the beach. You know, even when I first moved to St. Pete, I lived I lived in Pasadena was what it was called. And after living in Tampa, I even thought that was kind of boring, but the beach is boring. But whatever. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Hey, I guess be on the lookout for the next crab video. Shoot. Might as well try every crab place in St. Pete. Let's see if we can get those numbers up, alright? Bye, Zesties.